Good morning, everybody. First off, I just want to make it very clear I'm fully aware of what it says in the description of this video. That's what happens when you do things from your phone and spell check picks up. So if everyone could just ignore the fact that apparently I'm shitting down, that would be spectacular. I do have a big show for you guys today. I'm joined by Project VERITAS senior reporter James LALINO, one of my very good friends. We've been friends for about 2.5 years. He's doing spectacular work. He is one of the journalists who helped expose David Casamento, the creep that is poisoning our children, poisoning the kids of East Meadow. And there is another Project VERITAS drop going on right now. I'm going to play that for you guys in just 1 minute. But before we get started, guys, make sure you guys hit that like button, share this video all over the place so that everyone knows that it's not happening in just East Meadow. It's not happening in just East Meadow. Now it's happening in Jericho. I've been getting messages the last couple of days that apparently it's happening in East Islip as well. Just know that this won't be the last Project VERITAS video that comes out that I'm about to play for you. They already tease another drop at the end of this video, so you're going to want to pay attention to that. Once again, if you're on Rumble, hit that Rumble button, share this video out. Make sure you hit subscribe at the bottom of the page. Also, head on over to loudmajorityus.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. Use promo code LFA for 20% off at checkout. That's 20% off at checkout with promo code LFA. So here's the new VERITAS drop, and then right after this, we're going to comment on that briefly, and then I'm going to show you what happened when my friend James LALINO confronted David Casamento. He wasn't too thrilled. I would say he ran away, but judging by the size of this guy, he doesn't run anywhere very often. So, here is the new Project VERITAS drop from right here on Long Island.
There's a lot of opportunity for kids that have to go on hormone blockers. That was the class that I was like, let's watch some drag, let's talk about it, let's have fun.
You can just be, I don't want to use the word insidious. The word I want to use is just quietly disruptive. Write a math sheet and put a picture of someone on there who's like, you know, a non-binary, maybe looking kind of person.
Welcome to the 8th annual LGBT Teach Forum, hosted by Ed Camp Long Island at Jericho High School in Jericho, New York. Nearly 200 educators, administrators, and students across New York State attended. There, they broke out into classrooms and discussed how to strategically incorporate gender-based ideology into lesson planning. Here's special education teacher Cynthia Clough from the Albany School District.
You can just be, I don't want to use the word insidious. The word I want to use is just quietly disruptive. Disruptive, you know, as a classroom teacher in your buildings, you put your little rainbow sticker up. I'm not saying everybody come out and be like, ooh, guess what? You don't have to do all that. You can just do it on a quiet a book you read, the language you use in your classroom, the opening of your kids' minds to other opportunities, to other pathways, to just letting your kids know that your classroom is a safe space. Even those things, I mean, you could read, you know, Johnny has two mommies if you want to. You could read on the book reading day, it's like February 2nd, you could read the jazz story. Or have, you know, your drag queens come in and read the jazz story if you want to. Or you could just quietly read books. Don't even bring attention to them. You know, if you're writing a math sheet, write a math sheet and put a picture of someone on there who's like, you know, a non-binary, maybe looking kind of person.
That's Michael Smith, a world languages teacher of Long Island, one of Assistant Superintendent David Casamento's teachers who works in the East Meadow School District.
You know, I decide to come in with makeup and bigger shoulder pads. Am I really doing drag? Am I just being me? You know, where does the line fall? So I think that introduction of it really can be as simple as saying, hey, we're going to read a book from Dr. Seuss, and here's a quote from Martin Luther King, and here's a quote from RuPaul, and just having like little kind of drops of exposure without somebody's upbringing. I mean, that's what settles into our psyche as what normalcy is, right? More exposure. And people that have extreme culture shock are people that are isolated and aren't exposed to somebody who's different. You grow up in New York and you see, you walk down the street, you see 74 different kinds of people all the time.
I remember the first time I went swimming after my top surgery. It was awesome. And I never swam before that. I never went to the beach. So there's things I would choose to not do in navigating my situation so that it felt most comfortable to me. And I was working very physical jobs at that time. I spent about 6 years saving up for my top surgery because it wasn't covered by health insurance back then, and binding and working physical jobs, saving money, traveling for surgery. I traveled to San Francisco, and there were a lot of barriers at the time, which is why I'm so grateful with Northwell Health and the development of health systems on Long Island. It's so encouraging to see the change that we're kind of in the middle of that change. We're in that period of history where things are progressing.
And so one of the courses that I was teaching was reaching out to our gay and transgender students. And like, these kids just coming up to me, like, I just want to share with you that I identify as trans, and like, I really prefer this, but please don't tell home. And they're like, I didn't realize how many kids were like this. So those are like the subtle things that I think make the ripples that make waves. I love that class, because that was the class that I was like, let's watch some drag, let's talk about it, let's have fun. But the people that do teach, it's great. It's Teacher Education Institute, and they have reaching out to our gay and transgender students. It's affordable. Really normal hormone blockers as well. So if somebody's really ambivalent about their identity and where they are, and kind of growing up, there's a lot of opportunity for kids that have to go on hormone blockers, which would sort of pauses their development so that they have time to maybe have a few extra years to kind of think about where they want to go. Because the longer that you go through adolescence and puberty, the less you can do if that child really does identify as transgender and wants to be able to go a different avenue. Being able to do that's a great conversation. And if that student develops some autonomy and wants to be able to make a big decision about whether it's surgery or going on hormones or whatnot, that transition is going to be a little bit more challenging than if they were able to have that validation earlier on in their life. Our roster always says their birth names, so when I call that student by their first name, it's the name that they want. But if I have to call home, I have to use she, her pronouns and use that student's assigned name.
So, did this student bring up blockers to you?
Oh, yeah.
We have more to come from Ed Camp Long Island, specifically from the event organizers themselves. Stay tuned.
Even though I'm not an elementary level educator, it's probably my favorite group to work with, working with staff and admin, because if we could actually do more of this conversation with elementary age kids, by the time they get to me in middle school or some of you in high school, we'll be in a better place. And the truth is that we know that kids are coming out at younger and younger ages, and gender is, sexuality as well, but especially looking at gender, we have kids as early as 2-3 years of age.
I mean, what else needs to be said? What else needs to be said? You guys were told for 2 years that you were crazy, that this wasn't happening. You were gaslit by places like NBC News and CBS and CNN and MSNBC, but we knew it was happening. We were gaslit by places like Newsday and News 12. Well, maybe there's a reason why Newsday decided to lie to us. Because here's an article from Newsday right up here. Look at this. Look at this bad boy. Let me pull this up a little bit. Long Island educators have their say at unique Bethpage conference. You see the guy second from the right there? Yep, that's David Casamento. The old David Casamento, the man who decided that he was going to inject, and just so you know, this is from Newsday, in case they want to say that I edited some kind of video. You can check it out right there. Right there, second from the right, old David Casamento. Yep. I wonder if Newsday will have anything to say about this. That they highlighted what is, insert adjective here, predator, groomer, creep, liar, bad educator, someone who's soon to be unemployed. I mean, I don't know what else to say. But just in case any of you are curious about what happens when you confront people like David Casamento, please watch my friend James LALINO confront him with his own nonsense.
Oh, Dr. Casamento? How you doing? James LALINO, Project Veritas. I'm a reporter for Project Veritas. You are the subject of an undercover investigation that we've been doing for a number of months now. We actually have you on camera here, sir, talking to one of our journalists, actually, who's an undercover reporter for Project Veritas. This is
What
you.
are you doing? What's happening?
This is you speaking undercover.
Anti-racist work, like, do you encourage the anti-racist work to be put into their curriculum?
Covertly. Where's Dave?
You admit.
Oh, guys.
So why are you, in every district in Nassau County, Mr. Casamento, you're putting DEI curriculum in covertly? Why is that?
Oh, that's very
We're not
nice.
putting it in.
You admit that you're thinking you could hurt people? What'd you say? How do you sleep at night, sir?
I am political in every conversation I have.
If you get smacked out of the game, what good are you, Dave?
If you can do the game, you can do the good work. If you get smacked out of the game, what good are you?
So we are Dr. David Casamento, Assistant Superintendent at East Meadow Schools on Long Island in Nassau County. We have him saying some pretty, some radical things, talking about how he's all politics all the time. He also says he doesn't hire conservatives. He has a rubric that he uses to weed out conservatives. We ask the questions, we throw the iPad in front of them, they stomp on the gas pedal, and they get the hell out of Dodge. James LALINO, Project Veritas. If you get smacked out of the game, what good are you?
Cowards. Cowards. He's brave enough to say it when he thinks he's not being recorded, but then when he's confronted with it, he's got nothing to say. It is so unbelievable what these people are willing to do when they think no one is watching. But we're always watching. We expose everyone. We expose absolutely everyone. Before I bring James on, guys, because you guys are going to get to meet that brave undercover journalist who exposed this. This is actually his first on-camera interview ever. We've been friends for about 2.5 years. He's been on both sides of the camera. I'm super excited for you guys to be able to meet him. If you haven't if you didn't get to meet him at East Meadow, something tells me you're going to be seeing a whole hell of a lot of them. That is what I would. That's what I believe. But make sure you guys hit that like button on the video. Keep sharing this video out so that everyone on Long Island can know what's happening to their kids. We knew it. We knew it for years. And this is the proof we need happening in every Long Island school, at least in Nassau County. And if you don't think this is going on in Suffolk, well, I got a bridge to sell you. All right? It's important to know. It's important to note that if your kids go to Nassau County schools, people like David Casamento are indoctrinating them. This is the proof. He admits to doing it at every school in Nassau County. And you're not going to hear about this on News 12. News 12 covered this for about, a minute. And didn't even show part of the video. Didn't even show the worst parts of the video. It was readily available. They could have if they wanted to. But they didn't. Newsday won't cover it. You're only going to hear about this stuff on shows like this one. So, guys, please hit the Rumble button, hit the like button, share this video out. Make sure you're subscribed to both the Facebook page and the Rumble page so that you guys can get this sort of information when it comes out. When it comes out. Guys, we will be right back with the man you just saw in that video, Mr. James LALINO. We'll be right back, guys. Alrighty, guys, we are back here on Loud Majority Live. I'm super excited to have my next guest. I've been friends with this guy for about 2.5 years now. I got to be honest with you. I think he's probably got the coolest job on planet Earth. Please welcome the senior reporter at Project Veritas, my friend, Mr. James LALINO. How's it going, James?
How you doing, Kevin?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks for joining us. So this is your first on-camera interview. You are normally behind the camera doing a lot of that stuff. You recently exposed an administrator here on Long Island, which is very important to a lot of the people that we have on Long Island. You're a Long Island native, so having exposed a superintendent putting DEI and CRT-like things in the schools without parental consent is obviously very important to a lot of the people who watch this show. Why don't you talk a little bit about how you guys were able to expose this sort of stuff going on Long Island schools?
Well, yeah, I'll say this. I mean, it's amazing what people will say when they don't know that they're being recorded, right? This guy, we discovered him at actually my high school, Bethpage High School. I'm an alumni, 2004 graduate of Bethpage High School. There was an education camp, ed camp, was happening about 4 or 5 months ago, and the journalist, very brave undercover journalist, who was made friends with Dr. Casamento. He talked to him, he had a few conversations with him, and that led to some one-on-one meetings, as you saw in the video. They took place on Long Island, of course.
Yeah.
We were able to build such a connection with this guy that he did spill the beans on what he was really doing behind the scenes.
And you guys are able to get content out of people that as I said, that we know is happening. We can't prove. They do a very good job of hiding it. We've been talking about the CRT and the DEI stuff in schools for a long time. This superintendent talked about how his sexual orientation makes him, I don't know, connect with children easier, which is just weird. It's not. I remember being a kid in school, and you would see your teacher at the mall, and you'd be like, wait, you don't live at the school? You're not, you have a life outside of here. But now it seems that a lot of administrators are taking it upon themselves to do a lot of things that should be that should really be done in the home. And you guys have done a great job exposing that, not only here but on a nationwide level.
Yeah, I can't even imagine being in elementary school or middle school and hearing about my teacher's personal life or anything like that. I mean, I remember being, a kid and what you said, thinking that the teachers lived there, or that my 2 gym teachers were married, a guy and a girl, right? Yeah. I was being a little kid. We don't really understand that stuff. So with this, what this brave journalist exposed, Dr. Casamento, he is bringing that into the classroom. He's bringing it into the curriculum, even though he's not actually in the classroom now. He's in charge of the entire curriculum for a district.
And he was saying that he hires the teachers. Yeah. So when I say it all the time.
He has the rubric.
He openly talks about how once you have, and we talk about it all the time, that once you have tenure as a teacher in the state of New York, it's basically impossible to be fired.
Yes.
It doesn't matter how incompetent, how useless, how malevolent you are, you will not be fired in the state of New York. It costs $2 million to fire a teacher in the state of New York. So for the school districts, it's often not worth it. And having a man like this, who obviously has an ideological bent, obviously has an agenda, picking the teachers that are going to get tenure, is going to have downstream effects on the school itself.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not even that so much as it's also he's designing what they're teaching, which is, I think, it's the ideology right there that is in the it's in the books, it's in their lesson plans. He's just apparently, from what he does and what he told us on camera, is that he's covertly putting this stuff in so other people don't find out what they're doing. They know that DEI is a very controversial subject, especially around here, Long Island.
Oh yeah.
Where we're from, and it's seeing that actually on camera and him talking about it it was shocking to a lot of people. And
what I found to be so interesting about it too was that he goes, this is happening in every school. It's happening everywhere. And we guys, we've known this. We've been to these school board meetings. We see the stuff your children get sent home. There was one case in Sachem a while, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, what happened with that?
They sent a survey to the children, because now all the kids have Chromebooks that are given to them by the schools. So you cut the parents out of any sort of thing that the student has to do. And it was basically a survey on their sex lives. It asked them how often they get engaged in oral sex, anal sex, regular sex, what gender they identify. I remember at 15, I didn't know what half that stuff was, and to see, like I said, we only went to school not too long ago. It's not like we're talking about we went to school in the 50s and how times have changed. We didn't get any of this crap. We got your basic, condom on a banana, and we all laughed, and we watched the Miracle of Life video, and that was it. But these things have just gotten so out of proportion, and you guys have done a great job exposing a lot of that nationwide.
Thank you.
It's so now we talk about journalism. We talk about the infotainment you see on television. You guys are some of the last journalists left. So what really made you get into investigative journalism? What made you go down the path of actually doing the sort of muckraking that we used to see from the journalism industry?
Well, I was working in the movie industry for a long time, before I got into the journalism business. I used to work on big movie sets in the city, giant TV shows, Netflix shows, HBO shows, and I did that for a long time. And while the money was great, and I was living a great life, living in the city, doing that and grinding out on movie sets, I just wasn't happy. I just didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't like the work. I didn't really fit into the industry anywhere, I felt. But it was like the golden handcuffs, right? It was like it was a hard thing to walk away from. And I really just got inspired by just the way that America started to shift away from this believing the narrative of the mainstream media, believing everything that the politicians were, feeding us. America really had a come to Jesus moment.
Oh, absolutely.
Really. 2015, 2016, 2017.
Well, I say it all the time. As soon as the man came down the elevator, the minute he stepped off the elevator, the entire world changed.
That was insane.
Both in the way we perceive news, the way news is given. Now it's like a reality TV show when you watch it sometimes. And I think that now journalists like you guys, Jack Posobiec, Tim Pool, are starting to really replace the sort of entities that historically we've trusted, and I think that's simply because it's the truth. It's you don't need a narrative when you're telling people the truth.
Absolutely.
And I say it all the time about what you guys do. It's the coolest job on planet Earth. I don't know how you guys get the stones to pull some of the moves that you do. I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could sit down with Dr. Casamigo, whatever the hell his name is, and listen
he shall
to
not
that.
be named.
Yeah, he shall not. Voldemort. I don't know how you guys do it without. I would snap. I would absolutely snap. But you guys are able to really keep your cool. So what is one of your favorite stories that you've been able to expose in the last couple of years you've been with Veritas?
Well, first I'll say that I'm very fortunate to be working at Project Veritas. They gave me an opportunity, a guy from the movie industry, a guy who, I came off a movie set, and I guess that I had such an effect or such a good first impression that they gave me an opportunity with, to work there.
Yeah.
And I'm super fortunate the last 4 years. And so coming in, I was very green, and I had to learn from amazing people. We have such a great team, a production team, our development team, everyone is just incredible. And I've just been put in this great position where I was given the means to actually go out and go undercover for many years and get pretty big stories.
Oh, and certainly.
So my favorite moment that in my career, I've had a number of them in my short time there, but one of them is definitely the Vanessa Gelman interview from Pfizer a couple years back.
Oh yes, that was quite big. That was definitely and that's what I find. We'll get into why that's your favorite in a minute, but you guys don't. And I really like this. You guys don't go for low-hanging fruit. There's no sort of salacious sex scandals or somebody's cheating on somebody else. It's all real hard-hitting stuff because the news media would run with that sort of story. If you got a congressperson having an affair, that's what they would run with. But you guys actually talk about stuff that affects people in a real way. Most obviously and most recently with the Pfizer video. You're saying that your Pfizer moment is your favorite. Why is that?
Well, it was, for those who might not know about it, it was in 2021. We released an insider footage of, it was actually an insider interview where she sent us emails from Vanessa Gelman, who's a top executive at Pfizer. And Vanessa Gelman was telling her colleagues that don't talk about this in public. Don't talk about that. We used fetal cells, fetal cell lining, to make the vaccine because the pro-life people will go nuts. There'll be a backlash. I think the quote was something along the lines of, we can't have this information floating out there in the public because it could be used against us. So naturally we release it. We got this amazing thing. We release it, and we have to go ask questions to the subject in question. So I was able to confront Mrs. Gelman. And for those who haven't seen the video, she looked directly at my cameraman, and she just sprinted.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I mean, is it a sprint? It's a sprint. It was a sprint for her.
It was a sprint for her.
Yeah, and
It's so amazing when you confront people how their reactions are, because obviously the Pfizer,
you never know.
Obviously the Pfizer tech that happened about a month ago, that was probably the biggest freak out I've ever seen, when he was like, locking people in pizza places or wherever the hell that was, to watch these people get exposed. And there's a lot of people out there that will say that, like, these are just run-of-the-mill people doing their jobs. And you can very clearly see from their positions that you're not exposing the night janitor. It's not some intern.
They're some of the most powerful people in the world.
They're some of the most powerful people in the world. And even with our most recent one, this guy has been in East Meadow with the superintendent of curriculum. He's been doing this for 30 years.
Yes, and he's one of the most powerful people in the district.
In
East Meadow.
And
It's two high schools.
It's a huge district.
Yeah, it's two high schools. It's multiple elementary schools, multiple middle schools. It's no joke.
It's no joke. So that's what I know, that when you guys drop a video, it's like a culturally relevant moment. Like everyone stops. I remember when it was like when Jack Dorsey went on Joe Rogan, everyone just stopped him.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, we're gonna get the goods. We're gonna get it now. And it's the same thing as when you guys drop a video. I know I was super excited to have to finally be vindicated after 2.5 years of saying that all this crap was happening and having nobody believe us. And if there's one thing that particularly the school stuff proves, is that when you piss off mama bears, there's going to be backlash. East Meadow was on fire last night.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
East Meadow was on fire. I was so happy you were able to be there to see it, because we've had some good ones here.
It's a wild time.
We've had some good ones. I would say East Meadow is probably about an 8 on the intensity level, because the meeting was able to close without it being stopped halfway through, which is usually what happens. I think they have another executive session coming up on the 22nd.
Yeah, they mentioned that last night.
Something tells me it may be even more full. I'm going to go with that. But so what?
Let me say something. Actually, that was an amazing atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at one point, I'm sitting there in the audience, and I looked around. I looked at you. I looked at others, and I looked around. I said, like, wow, these are my people. I grew up just a couple miles from East Meadow.
Yeah.
I used to go to the East Meadow Home Depot with my mom and dad all the time, and like, just that area. My best friend graduated from East Meadow High School. So to see that, to see the people, and to hear, just the way everyone was just so passionate about it, and just to feel like this is home, and it was really a special moment for me. That might have been my favorite moment, actually.
Well, yeah,
my new favorite moment.
Well, I mean, once it hits home, once you're in, back in your own neighborhood. It was so interesting when you guys told me about, when we discussed the story. I remember thinking to myself, like, if this sort of thing happens in Palo Alto, or it happens in Austin, or it happens in Idaho, I'm like, or Pennsylvania, this is 8 miles down the road. It's happening right here in front of all our eyes, happening to the kids of our community. And my favorite answer to this is, why do you get involved in school boards? You don't have any kids. And I say, no, this is the next generation of Americans that are being poisoned by stupidity, that are being poisoned by ideology. And we have yet to see, as of this interview, what's going to happen with Dr. What the hell is his name?
Dr. David Casamento.
I don't know why I keep calling him Casamigo.
I actually...
I think that's a salad, right?
I don't know what kind of salads you're eating.
Well,
Friend house.
Obviously not
Casamigo.
many, but yeah.
You saw the video of us confronting him, right?
Yes.
That we asked him the questions, and I showed him the iPad with him on it. And this is an incredible thing always, where they go into a state of shock, because, to be fair, they are often very surprised by this when they see it, because who thinks that they're the subject of an undercover investigation?
And we're going to get to that in a minute, because there's nothing I like more. There's nothing I like more than when you get recordings of people worried about being recorded. That is my favorite thing. I don't want to say anything because somebody could be recording this. Whoever's there recording a bunch of, literally must just be like obviously not making a facial expression, but like just... Yep, it's right there. It's right, and it's so staggering to see what, as we said, what people will say. But watching people freak out when you approach them is almost, well, I feel like the approach is more fun than the video, but.
It can be. It's not easy also. I feel like some people might look at the videos and think like, oh, that's fun, and this is very serious work. And when we actually show the person on camera or on the iPad that you said these things and you're about to be exposed, oftentimes that is the hardest part of the job because we get so close to these subjects. Sometimes I did a story years ago with an FDA subject, and seeing his eyes when R.C. Maxwell put the iPad in his face and said, you know, we have an undercover story coming out about you. It's not easy. So, of course, you know, he deserves to be exposed. These people, they deserve it for sure. The public deserves to know these things and they need to know what's going on in their curriculum. But, you know, it's not. I feel like sometimes people think it's fun and games, and then, but it's very serious, and it's a real. You know, it's real. It's also as real as it gets.
It's also dangerous because, I mean, look, to be honest, I'm just thinking of me. I am shocked that people don't lash out at you guys in a violent way more often. I mean, it's shocking to me to see that. Maybe it's shock, maybe they're just in awe, maybe their fight or flight just says get the hell out of there. Well, but I mean, you guys, every time you confront somebody, you run the risk of them taking a swing at you, or you know, you usually approach people when they're at their cars, which, despite what people think, a car is a weapon. You know, I mean, that was my favorite part about the Casamigo. I'm never going to say this guy's name right. Is that he
Dr. Casamigo?
Dr. Casamigo. Is that he pulled away in his Jaguar SUV. So this isn't some guy that's, you know, making $40, $50 a year. The guy's probably making about $150,000 a year.
Yeah, he's doing very well.
He's doing very well for himself. So it's always impressive to see the kind of work that you guys are able to put in. And I'm curious how you feel about criticisms people will give that you're recording people without their knowledge. And some people would say that they don't think that that's fair because people don't know they're on camera. Me personally, I'm like, no, you said it. Doesn't matter, you know. Maybe shut up. Maybe don't brag about how you're fooling teachers and fooling parents and lying to people. But how would you respond to criticisms about that?
Well, that's a really great question. You know, when I wake up in the morning, I generally wake up about 6 a.m. and I drink coffee and I read the New York Times opinion page, Washington Post opinion page. I watch MSNBC pretty much all day, mostly on mute. But, you know, you can read the Chirons, and I read Politico Playbook in the morning. And, you know, I also, you know, I listen to a lot of talk radio podcasts. So in the morning, what I'll do is I'll listen to what's considered mainstream media roll out their messaging for the day. And then by the afternoon, when a lot of the podcasts that I listen to, sort of more of the opposition will the podcasts are more the opposition. They will sort of
like rebut.
Counteract the rebut, exactly. The day's news, the meeting, the message from the morning, and so I will also watch that in the morning. I read that in the morning, and I'll think to myself, like, Joe Scarborough, Morning Joe, he's lying.
Yeah,
he's lying.
Oh, he's one of the worst.
Yeah, and
he's absolutely. And you know, I say it. I don't mean to cut you off, but I say it all the time. A guy like Joe Scarborough, Rachel Maddow, Don Lemon, they're not dumb. They're not stupid people. They know what they're doing. I mean, Rachel Maddow is a rogue. She's a Rhodes Scholar. Like, she went to Oxford.
I didn't know that. Wow.
She's not I think either Oxford or Cambridge. Somebody from Britain's going to get mad at me about that. But, like, these are not dumb people that are, like, they know what they're saying isn't true. And I think that seems to be the worst part. I watch MSNBC all the time, too, just because it's, like, comic relief. I try turning on The View, but that's just too much. That's just too much for me.
So I watch it and to see what they're saying and the lies that they put out, and also like to see Dr. Casamento on camera tell me we don't put it in covertly, or whatever the line was that he said when he got into his Jaguar and drove away. To see people deny these things that we've exposed, actually, that's really what drives me to do this, and that's what our team is all about too, is exposing the people that are lying. So when people give us criticism about, like, you shouldn't record or something like that, I mean, the way that I was brought up at Project Veritas, the people who trained me, I mean, how else are we going to get the story without doing it covertly? How else are we going to get a teacher from Connecticut telling us I don't hire Catholics? Jeremy Boland, I believe his name was, or is. How are we going to get that and launch these investigations? And shout out to the amazing journalist who got that story. She crushed it, and she would have never got that if she told the assistant principal Boland that, hey, I'm recording you. by the way. It just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So-
you guys spend months and months on some of these stories. I know you had said that this Ed Camp thing in East Meadow was a couple months ago and stuff.
That was Bethpage.
Oh,
In
Bethpage.
Yeah.
So which is exciting because knowing that you spend months on stories lets me know that there's always going to be more coming out down the road, which is super fun because I won't lie. When Project Veritas puts out a video, provides me with hours and hours of content because you guys do such a great job. And like I said, it's not the low hanging fruit. It's not the sex scandal. It's the people who have real power in this country. With the Pfizer executive, with some of the whistleblowers that come out from Health and Human Services or CNN or Hasbro. The people.
New York Times. Matt Rosenberg last year.
The whistleblowers are always my favorite. April Moss and Carrie Porch and Christian Hartsock and they are.
Christian's not a whistleblower. He's a senior journalist.
I get it mixed up with somebody every time. Sorry, Christian. But it's I see such inspiration in them with what they do because they give up their lives, they give up their livelihood, they give up their jobs. Some of them are very good jobs, to be able to expose some of this stuff. And
I was with Carrie. I spent a lot of time with Carrie in D.C. Undercover.
You were saying you had a good story about that, or
maybe we'll tell that offline.
Good. I like that. I like that a lot.
But yeah, no, I ran around D.C. with him, and we exposed this giant story. And I remember just when the story came out, just being with him, and he had to get the hell out of Dodge, and just sitting in the hotel and watching some incredible coverage from that story and seeing my content from one of the subjects and just seeing that on people's screens. I remember that was the moment where I was like, wow, this is actually a huge deal, and I'm very blessed to be doing what I'm doing.
Oh, absolutely.
Just seeing like different podcasts that I actually am a fan of, seeing them cover that little bit of content from Carrie's story was amazing. And he's a friend, and he's brass balls, especially at that time.
I said my favorite is when you guys will go when you guys will hit the executives, like when you jumped on the CNN morning call. I was like, oh, that's fantastic.
That was such a brilliant idea.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Jump on. Hi.
It was incredible.
Hi, Project Veritas here. All right, so we were talking about your journalism philosophy and what it is that you think the role of a journalist is in our society. I was talking about it before, that we live in an infotainment world now where anchors aren't journalists. These people think they're celebrities. The people who actually are journalists are often labeled. We just before the show, we were talking about a guy like Matt Taibbi getting slammed by Congress because he actually did the work of exposing the stuff at Twitter. Yeah. And so why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you think a journalist really is, about how you go through your process?
Well, I touched upon earlier, like my daily process, just consuming a lot of different media from a lot of different sources, mainstream media in the morning, also just living like a journalist. And my philosophy, I'll be honest, is still developing. I feel like I learn from others around me, or I will ask questions to people who have been in the business a lot longer than me. I can't say that I'm like, I know everything, because I think that's not the right way that we should live. We should actually be curious about learning new things, right? So I ask a lot of people around me for what they do with their tips. And a perfect example, a perfect person was Christian Hartsock, actually, who's been with Project Veritas since the very beginning. And Christian, I remember a few years ago when I first got hired, and I was having, I wasn't having the best luck. I had a couple stories out, but I remember asking him, I said, what am I doing wrong? How do I step my game up? And he, taught me how to live like a journalist. You actually have to read the New York Times. You actually have to follow these things and watch the news and listen to the podcast and immerse ourselves in it. Maybe one day a week you don't, or else you get crazy.
It's like a cheat day on a diet.
Exactly.
You spend one day not reading. I read the New York Times and the Post every day because
Yeah.
You know what? That's what I want to know what they're thinking. Watching Fox, watching OAN, watching Newsmax, I know what they're going to say. So it's important. I want to know what Anderson Cooper's talking about. I want to know what Rachel Maddow's talking about.
Yeah.
Because that way I know how to rebut them. I know what the arguments are coming from. I know how they're talking about the Project Veritas video or the Twitter files or the fact that the vaccine kind of doesn't work like it was promised. You know, I want to know what they're saying. Watching stuff that I agree with doesn't really do anything for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. And I think that in terms of journalism philosophy, one of the things that I've felt about myself with the work that we do is I feel like we need to serve an underserved market. So where the entire mainstream media is investigating Trump or Republican candidates.
They all cover the same stuff.
Yes, they're all covering the same stuff. So for me, my personal philosophy is I want to cover the things that the mainstream media isn't looking at. So that's why I subscribe to the James O'Keefe School of philosophy of journalism, because he decided to go after the sacred cows, and Project Veritas was started as a company. O'Keefe started it to go and expose the sacred cows. NPR, school unions, teachers unions, school boards, all of that, mainstream media outlets, the government, the deep state. He chose to do other things instead of let's investigate the same people who've been investigated forever, and what are we going to expose with it's that Politico hasn't already.
Yeah, well, I say it all the time about the man that I know James got a lot of his inspiration from, Andrew Breitbart. You know, I feel like every person that came out of like we'll call it the Breitbart school that was involved that it was involved with Andrew is like the people that we now trust, the people that a lot of them came out of there, or people that Andrew helped. I know it'd be
Christian is one of them.
Yeah, Christian's one of them.
Worked there.
There's so many that came out of the early days, 15 years ago at Breitbart, whose names that we probably don't even remember, or don't even know worked at. But I'll tell you out there, if you're watching somebody or you're reading somebody and you're liking what they're doing and they're being a little bit different, they're probably out of the Breitbart school, because he was the one that really broke everyone, that really broke the mold on journalism and who they exposed with BigHollywood.com and BigGov.com and eventually Breitbart News.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I at that time I wasn't paying attention the way I do now.
Me either.
I mean, Andrew Breitbart died in 2012?
I think it was 11 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started really following the news cycle more in about 2011, right when I got into the movie industry, like right before I got in, and so. Yeah, the school, the Andrew Breitbart school, the Retracto, the Project Veritas Retracto is an Andrew Breitbart creation. As a matter of fact,
I was telling somebody the other day that I'm gonna steal your idea a little bit. What I'm gonna do is there's a newspaper out there called the Smithtown News that's literally all they write is about me. So I'm gonna go buy like 100 lawn flamingos and put them right outside of their office, call it the fake news flamingo, and then just walk away.
Is that going to be your mascot?
I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm
majority mascot.
I'm waiting to get the okay from Veritas, because when one of you guys sees it, you're going to go, oh, I know where you got that from.
The loud majority mascot is going to be a flamingo.
Fred, the fake news flamingo. That's it. I'll just buy like 100 of them at like Home Goods or wherever the hell they sell them, and just stick them in the middle of the night. That way, when they show up, it's just little arms swinging in the air behind it.
That's funny, because from the second I met you, we met in 2021.
Yeah,
it was at De Blasio's.
It was at the governor's mansion. Yeah,
the governor's mansion. Yeah, you were with the YRs, and I was just kind of going to scope it out and meet sources and that kind of thing. And I remember that was probably August 2021.
It was hot, so it was definitely the summer, because I remember I was cooking.
Yeah,
I was cooking. And then we all went out to eat afterwards.
And there's that famous photo of you guys.
Yeah. Oh, yes, it's in the clubhouse.
When they put pineapple on pizza or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sitting there. Oh, that is.
You got to put the photo in. Yeah.
I'm gonna pull the video.
I'm standing right next to you guys.
I gotta find that picture. It's one of my. I think they have it hanging up at the YR.
It's at the
which is. I want to thank Gavin Wax for framing the worst photograph of me that's ever been taken in history. I look like when you leave salami out for too long. I'm like all sweaty and I'm a grouse.
Yeah, it's a great photo. It's at the Young Republican clubhouse in Manhattan. So, yeah.
No, it's that was a great day when we let De Blasio know that we weren't going to stand for the mandates, and a lot of what we were able to do in not stopping because of the work that you guys do, because you don't ever stop. You don't ever stop. And we saw with the East Northport that once we get motivated, once it hits home and we get people to these school board meetings, when we start to apply pressure on our local representatives and our education system and government entities in general, things actually do change. There was another teacher who I believe she's been fired from Comswag School Board.
What's going on in Comswag?
There was a teacher that I want to say socially transitioned a 9-year-old girl, and she started drawing like pictures with like suicidal ideations, and
the girl did.
No. Yeah, the teacher was giving them like male pronouns and calling the kid Leo, even though it was a girl.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Since you're really, this is your beat, my beat. I've got a lot of different beats depending on what we're investigating, but why are they doing this? The teachers.
I think that if I'm giving it the least nefarious, obviously everyone out there, I don't like to call somebody a groomer or a predator until I know for sure. I think that a lot of what is coming out of the colleges, a lot of I think it really started with the self-esteem generation that we grew up in, where everyone got a trophy.
Remember that? Remember those cartoons? Remember that from there'd be in workbooks, and they'd be like your self-esteem. It would be like literally, I don't even know. It would be like steam with the eyeballs and the face.
Yes, exactly, 100%.
Like hunched over. I
think it's
what kind of message is that?
I think it started from that. It turns out no one is all they could be, where you can always improve. But we entered a world where everyone got a trophy, everybody was great, you were told how special you were, the world was supposed to cater to you.
It's crazy.
And now we're in a world where reality doesn't exist. Reality is subjective. Like, I talk about it with somebody I know all the time about the trans issue. My issue isn't with the trans people. My issue is with the fact that it is not true. It is not true that a man can become a woman. And once society as a whole embraces non-truth, falsehoods, where do we go from there? Where do we go from there? And people will believe whatever they're told. I make the joke all the time about the pharmaceutical companies, right? Liberals will say we got to hold the pharmaceutical companies accountable for the opioid crisis, and we have to, they should pay money, and these companies shouldn't be that big. And then in the next sentence go, but the vaccine, you got to take that. You absolutely have to take that. So there's cognitive dissonance going on in the world that I see is insane, and that people are starting to force people to accept their reality as truth. If you think you're a woman, you know what? Have a party, but don't bring me into it. Don't try to convince me that 2 + 2 = 5, because it doesn't.
It's funny you mentioned 2 + 2 = 5. Our Gabriel Geip story that we did, the teacher in Sacramento, I'm sure you'll remember that one.
Oh, yeah.
With he had all the tattoos, and he had the Antifa stuff in his classroom. He had a tattoo right on his arm. You could see it in the Undercover video. Also, shout out to that awesome journalist. He's kick-ass. He had the 2 + 2 = 5 tattoo right on his.
He had 2 Orwell tattoos, I think, right? He had the one.
So he knows. He understands.
Oh, he knows.
He literally, like guys like that, they understand.
They know what they're doing.
All a lie.
It's all a lie. I think that didn't he have? I think it's from. I forgot which Orwell book it's from, but he has like the logo of like the bad guys. I think it's from 1984.
I forget. Yeah.
Yeah. It's what the hell is it? It's the logo of the bad guys he's got on his arm, and it's like. Bro, those are the evil people in the book.
Like, which means was it INGSOC?
Yes,
logo?
INGSOC. That's
English socialism. I think it's supposed to stand for.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because he read the book and read it the wrong way. Like that. Finish the book, bro. Like, obviously he did because 2 + 2 = 5. But I think that there are just so many people that have been living in a world where they have never been wrong, where they decided when their parents left the event. They wanted to, hey, buddy, where do you want to eat today? Oh, you want to have that? When I grew up, no. Whatever was on the table is what you ate or you starved. Like, we've let the kids basically run the show. And now those kids, a lot of conservatives thought, a lot of people like me thought, that, whoa, reality is going to smack them in the face. No. They got jobs as the managing editor at the New York Times. They got jobs as the senior partner at Goldman Sachs. They got jobs in the government. We let Harvard and Yale be taken over by idiots. And now those people are the ones working for senators. They're the ones writing policy in the State Department. Those are the ones. The people, that girl, that famous video of that girl yelling at the Yale professor about how, I think this is from like 8 years ago or so. she's yelling at him about how this is supposed to be a safe space. And it's like, how can you not be in a safe space? You're in Yale. You're in the most butter soft place on planet Earth. Like, you can't be in an elite college and oppressed at the same time. And I think a lot of their how would you say it? Their views are just so skewed because they've never been told they're wrong. It's like the Princess.
I don't remember
and the
having a
Pea.
safe space. I don't remember having a safe space in college. I mean, they might have. I wasn't really paying attention back then. But I went to SUNY Oswego, upstate New York, and I don't remember having any sort of safe space or anything like that. I think it was actually pretty open as far as I remember. I don't know how it is now, but college kids now, I mean, on campus, I can't imagine what it's like to be on campus right now.
Yeah, and that's why I do. That's why I do what I do. And there's so many of the organizations out there, whether it's Campus Reform or Turning Point USA or so many other entities that are like standing up for those kids that don't have anyone to stand up for them, because nobody wants to look like a bigot and nobody wants to be called a racist and nobody wants to be called a transphobe.
Turning Point's they're having a great effect too. I think
in a school down the block, they painted the Pride Progress flag on a staircase. That is literally a left-wing political flag. It's not the pride flag. You want to be proud, have a good time. You know, dance around, sing a song, pay your taxes. I don't really care. But when you start putting political entities in schools, there are kids who are really uncomfortable with that, and no one is standing up for them. And that's my basic modus operandi.
I think last night at the school board meeting there was some pride flag waving Republicans, were there not?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. I know exactly who they are. They're
who are they?
Yeah. Well, one of them's a real good friend of mine, and it's like I said, you be gay. Have a party, whatever. I don't care. Remember in the 90s when it was like, stay out of my bedroom. Now it is, bring my bedroom into the classroom. How we've jumped since just the 90s sort of gay rights movement. And to see that sort of mission creep is why I push back as hard as I do.
Remember Chappelle's show?
Oh yeah.
That was like, I think, such a time period in America where everyone was getting made fun of.
Everyone was
getting made fun of in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I was coming of age. I'm about to be 37. So at that time, I was really a teenager, young adult. And everyone was getting made fun of. And it was just a different time. There wasn't this tension.
Oh, that's why I make fun of everybody.
Yeah, the media is really ratcheting up this tension the last 10 years for sure.
Well, because it's also the sensitivity,
the mainstream media.
The sensitivity of where we live. No one can ever look inward because, like as I said, everyone has been told they're perfect. So when they get made fun of, they take it as a personal assault.
The self-esteem.
Where like the self-esteem movement.
Yeah,
where like
textbooks,
me and my buddies growing up, like, we abused each other. We made fun of each other all the time. So now when somebody calls me fat, I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like that's soft to me. But these kids coming out of schools now have never been criticized.
Yeah.
They've never really dealt with social norms, both because of social media and the way we raise kids.
Yeah, and I wonder how Casamento fits into this.
Exactly.
This how his curriculum fits in. And also someone brought this up at the school board meeting last night. They said, which one of you was in on it with him? Which one of you school board members?
When they said that, their jaws hit the ground.
Was in on it with him because he's obviously Casamento was obviously talking with his other school board. Partners.
He's not doing this in a vacuum.
Yeah.
He's not making these curriculum decisions or hiring or firing, providing tenure for teachers by himself. No. So I want to know how many people were up there were doing it with him.
Yeah, and they kept saying last night 7-0, 7-0. How many things come down to a 7-0 vote by the school board or the superintendents, the cabinet? 7-0, 7-0, 7-0. That's what the parents kept saying last night. So they know what's up.
Oh yeah,
they've been privy to this for quite some time.
100%. Yeah. I'll tell you, look, and just in my opinion, Ingram and Smith, in my opinion, what happened was he was the loudest person in the room, so everyone just capitulated.
You say, yeah, you think so?
That's probably what happened, because they were probably like, okay, just all right, give the teacher tenure, whatever. Like, let's move on to the next thing. I want to go home, because most school board members are just overzealous PTA moms to begin with, or they've been placed there by the teachers union.
Yeah.
To further the goals of that union.
I think the most powerful one last night was the woman who agreed with the union. She agreed. It was the last one to speak.
Yeah.
I forget her name, but she agreed with the school board and she agreed with the DEI, but she didn't like the fact that Casamento was acting so covert and
Yeah.
causing such an uproar.
Oh yeah, that
you know,
that
like,
woman. She openly says, "I'm not a Republican. I'm
Yes.
not a conservative.
She was sitting with the progressives there
Yeah.
in the front row. The
yeah."
few that were there.
But the fact that, because look, I say it all the
She's
time.
ashamed.
She was ashamed of
Yeah.
it, because if this is so good and this is so great, then why are we hiding it? But he knows that if he were to be out in front about it, there'd be a problem. And I won't lie, in the video when he said that the Long Island parents tend to get a little loud, I was like, say it, say loud majority.
Imagine that.
Oh, I would have died.
Imagine that.
I would have died.
He said a lot of things in that video. My favorite line was I questioned him when I put the iPad in his face. He said, if you get smacked out of the game, what good are you?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like, you need to get your tenure. You need to be a good employee for a while until you get your tenure, you get your time in, and then you could push this progressive stuff or later, not early.
Yeah.
So that's why it was like, hey, if you get smacked out of the game, what good are you? You're exposed now.
Exactly.
And yeah, it
was really terrifying to see his. As I said, you know, what he said shocked me, but what shocked me more was the flippancy of it. That it was just like, oh yeah, we do this all the time. Like, no, bro, you can't do that. You can't push your gender, your sexual orientation on children.
Yeah, no.
It's, I mean,
not gonna work for me, brother.
Not gonna work for me, man. Like I said, I used to be confused when I'd see my teachers. I was 25 years old, and I ran into my science teacher at a bar, and I was still like a little confused.
Really?
Like, because I was like, wait, you go to bars? You're my biology teacher. What the hell are you doing here? Like, even as an adult, it kind of shocked me.
One of my closest friends in the world, he just died a few months ago, and I've really reconnected with his mother, and his mother was the school nurse at our high school, and I still call her, you know, by her formal, you know, Mrs. You know,
yeah. When I ran into my teacher, I called her Miss Baum.
Yeah.
She was like, Kev, you can call me Patty now. I was like, oh. That's weird.
Yeah,
that's so
she said the same thing to me.
That's so strange. It was like, wait, that's so odd.
But yeah, and I grew up around her and the family, and I just, So I still, I feel like our generation might be a little different. I don't know. But then again, the generations before us are different too.
Oh, 100%.
So
we got about 1 minute left. James, your camera's right there. Talk to the people. Let them know what's going on.
So yesterday we released the story, part 1, East Meadow Education. By the time this airs, part 2 will probably already be out. It's a multiple part series, education on Long Island, corrupt administrators, corrupt teachers. We're going to keep exposing everybody, no matter what. We were built on tenacity. We were built on a never give up attitude by any means necessary. We're going to expose the bad people, the corrupt elements of our society, whether it's on Long Island or whether it's in the city or whether it's anywhere in America. And we have a lot of stuff coming. We have a lot of stuff in the works. And stay tuned for Project Veritas and what we're going to be doing. We're not going to stop no matter what. And we're going to have a great year. And Casamento is it's an incredible story. It's impossible to believe that this is happening, but there are people out there like him. So if you have any tips, you want to send them to veritastips@protonmail.com. You can also hit us on our socials, DM us. If you have any tips, I think you're going to put my socials on here. You could DM me. And if you have any tips, anything Long Island, anything education related, anything with that's harming our youth or government corruption, please.
I will tell you that the people on Long Island absolutely have that. I get the messages all the time. So once again, that's
VeritasTips@protonmail.com.
VeritasTips@proton.me. I'll throw it up there. James, I want to thank you for coming in.
Email me too. You can email me too.
Yeah,
LALINO@ProjectVeritas.com.
LALINO@ProjectVeritas.com. Yeah. I wanted to have you on for a long time, my friend. We've been doing this.
It's about time, brother.
We've been going back and forth. James LALINO, I want to thank you so much for coming in, letting the people know, and thank you so much for doing what you guys are doing. I can't wait to see the rest of the nonsense going on Long Island education. So
it gets worse.
Don't worry, guys. I have to wait just like you do, so we'll see how that goes. But James, thanks so much for coming in.
Hell yeah.
Alrighty, guys. We'll be right back. Alrighty, guys. There it is. There it is. I was happy to be able to bring you guys, James LALINO, senior reporter over at Project Veritas. I know people are a little bit mad at them at the moment because of the stuff going on with the board, but there are still people there doing fantastic work. On the grind. These reports are months out. they happen months in advance, and I want to thank James and the whole team over there for all the run-of-the-mill guys that have nothing to do with the nonsense that's been going on in the public. So, guys, there's more videos to come, much more. Make sure you guys give James a follow on Twitter and on Instagram so you can see all the phenomenal content he's putting out. That's at James LALINO, LALINO, James LALINO. Go give him a follow. He's look, I've been friends with him for a very long time. We work together on numerous little things, and he's a hell of a dude. So I want to thank him once again for coming in. Guys, I know we ran over again today. These shows have been getting longer and longer. I'm liking it. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you're on Rumble. If you're new on Facebook, make sure you follow the page. Hit the like button. Share this video across all your social media platforms. Once again, guys, head on over to loudmajorityus.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out the shop. Use promo code LFA for 20% off everything on the website. Guys, it's time to start getting loud again. It's time to start getting pissed off again. More videos from Project Veritas to come. Make sure you guys stay tuned. Also, head on over to our national programming over on LFA TV on Rumble. We are this close to 50,000 subscribers, and you guys know I don't like unround numbers. So make sure you guys head to LFA TV on Rumble if you're watching over there. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Help us get to 50,000 because we get something special if we hit 50,000 over there. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you share this video out so that everyone in all these districts can see what's happening. Look, more's coming, guys, so stay tuned. Until then, I'll see you guys back Monday. Stay loud.